Hi everyone, I am Dr. Harbeer Singh. I have 16 years of software industry experience and 3 years of independent consulting experience. I have a PhD degree in business strategy. I am PECB ISO 27001 and 42001 lead auditor certified trainer. And welcome to this exercise, this very interactive and very important exercise about identifying audit evidence. Now, before we go ahead with this exercise, we might be aware that audit evidence is one of the lifeline of the audit process, right? It is one of the lifeline. It is such a crucial dimension of the entire audit process, right? So we will identify some key audit evidences, how to develop a knack of identifying the audit evidences, how to spot the audit evidences in the right way. So what are the objectives of this exercise? This exercise have three objectives. Number one, understand what qualifies as a valid audit evidence. Because in the real life audit scenario, you might come across several noises. The system will contain the audit ecosystem will contain lot of noise, lot of secondary data, lot of primary data, lot of data of relevance, lot of data of less relevance, lot of data and discussions of somewhat no relevance, right? So with this entire ecosystem of evidences, you have to identify, pick and choose the valid audit evidence, right? Which is a very, very important skill for any auditor. All right. Then we will distinguish between the evidence and the assumptions. What are the evidences and what are the assumptions? Because these tend to intermingle so tightly in each other that it is very difficult to differentiate between these, right? There are many experienced auditors also who find it very challenging to differentiate between the assumptions and the real evidences, right? It's a skill that you learn as you gain experience, right? And then evaluate the reliability of different evidence sources. As I mentioned earlier as well, there will be different evidences that will come from different sources. There might be noises integrated in that. So you have to you have to clear out the noises and you have to identify which evidences are reliable evidences, which evidences are less reliable, which evidences are not reliable at all. So evidences also come in different shapes and sizes and colors, right? All right. So that is what we will be discussing. So in an AI management system audit, evidences may be required to demonstrate the compliance that yes, auditors have done the right job and auditors have done the right audit in the right way, in the right format, and the evidences speak about that. The evidences are concrete ways in which the depth of the audit can be evaluated, because there might be a lot of challenges that you might encounter. A lot of client people, a lot of different stakeholders might challenge the audit process in one or the other way. This generally happens more often in the internal audit environment, but this also happens in the external audit as well, right? So you being a very scientific, very experienced, very matured, and very seasoned auditor, you have to have the knack of identifying the right audit evidences so that whenever asked, whenever required, whenever challenged, you can present the right evidence at the right time to the right audience. That builds your credibility as a very strong auditor, right? Okay, wonderful. Moving on. Let's talk about this scenario, auditing an AI risk management process. Now, during an audit of an organization implementing AIMS, The auditor is reviewing AI risk management practices. You know that AI risk management practices have to be evaluated. These are very critical points for any audit activity per se, right? So you have made these as an auditor, you have made these four observations. Now, what are these four observations? Observation number one, the AI manager states that AI risk assessments are conducted regularly. Okay, you have interviewed the AI manager, and during the interview, he replied to you that yes, the AI risk assessments are conducted regularly. All right, that is one data point for you. Let's talk about the second observation. A document titled AI risk procedure is also available. Okay, wonderful. That is the next step. The second observation that you made as an auditor is that, yes, you have found out that document with the title AI risk assessment procedure. Now, what is the third observation that you did? The third observation that you did is the auditor receives a three completed AI risk assessment reports from the recent projects. You went one step ahead. You went one step deep. You went one step further with your audit mindset. And you have uncovered a very wonderful thing. You have received three completed AI risk assessment reports from the recent project. That's a wonderful achievement, right? Now you are still not satisfied. You are going one step ahead. And you observe that an employee explains that AI model monitoring occurs monthly. So these are the four data points that you have received. You always went a level ahead, level down, level down, level down, and you have identified these four data points, right? Now the auditor must determine which information qualifies as reliable audit evidence. Now you are standing at a crossroad. You are standing at a crossroad, and you want to identify out of these four observations, which observation is very solid and concrete, which evidence can be presented to the people, to the stakeholders who might be challenging me in this requirement. That is what the exercise is all about. That is how you will get the replies, responses, you will get these kind of evidences. And you have to identify the real concrete evidence out of this n number of evidences that you have received. You understand the importance of this exercise, right? Now, the next scientific question that comes to our mind is identify the valid audit evidence. Now, in this exercise, how you would identify the real valid audit evidence out of the entire data that you have collected. So participants should analyze the scenario and determine which of the following represents a valid, concrete audit evidence. Now, the evidence items that you have to evaluate as a participant in this exercise are: number one, statement from the AI manager, observation one. In the previous slide, observation one. Observation two, documented procedure that you have received. Observation three, completed AI risk assessment reports. Three reports that you have received. Remember the last slide? Three reports that you have received. And the fourth evidence, employee explanation regarding monitoring. So now you are the auditor, you have done four observations, you have four data points, and now the question for this exercise for you are as follows. Number one, you have to tell me which evidence is most reliable out of these four. The second point that you have to tell me is that what additional evidence might the auditor request? That's a very, very wonderful question. The third point that you have to tell me while you go through this exercise is how can the auditor verify that the risk assessment process is actually really in reality implemented. Because going through the documentation and looking at what people are saying is a different thing, but the reality might be little bit different. So how you will correlate these evidences with the reality? How you will identify the reality? Because what people are saying might be different than what people have actually implemented on the ground. This may not always be the case, but many times this might be the case. And you being a seasoned auditor, you have to develop the knack, the quality within you to identify the real evidences in the audit. No matter whatever audit you do in the world, whatever professional audit you will do in the world, you will come across this problem for sure, right? Okay. So what will be the key learnings? What would be the key takeaways from this exercise? First key observation for you as a exercise, for you to do the exercise is document and records. Document and records provide stronger evidence than verbal statements, because verbally anybody can say anything, but we are very scientific people. Auditors are very scientific and thorough people. They generally do not believe what people are saying, but they believe what is actually happening on the ground. So you need a concrete evidences to conclude your audit activities. So documents and record is one thing. Second is multiple sources. That is super duper important. Multiple evidence sources increase reliability. You also call it triangulation. You also call it triangulation. Triangulation is essentially validating the same statement by different evidences. If different evidences are pointing towards one statement, then that one statement gains a lot of authenticity, lot of believability, right? So try to gain multiple evidences, multiple sources from multiple sources, and then you arrive at the evidence, right? Observation and sampling. You have to you have to be a very sharp observer, and this art and science will come to you naturally over a period of time. This may not come in first month, first 6 months, or maybe first 10 months with your audit practice, but as you get matured, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year in audit experience, this will be in your normal flow, in your normal personality, right? So observation and sampling may be necessary to confirm the implementation. Now there is a grid that is given at the bottom of this particular slide. There is a table that is given as an example evaluation. So the first column talks about the information, the second column talks about the evidence type, the third column talks about the reliability. As an example, if I take manager statement is a testimonial, which has a low reliability because it is spoken, it is verbal. It may be true, it may not be true. We don't know. We cannot take it on the face value. We cannot take the statement of the manager on the face value, right? Procedure document is a documentary evidence which has a medium reliability. Even the documents can also be tempered. We are not saying that in this case the documents are tempered, but we know from our experience that this could be the possibility. What about the risk assessment reports? There are documentary records. The reliability is actually high. We are not saying that this is 100% reliable. This could be 60%, 65%, 70%, 75%, or 80% reliable. We are not saying, we are saying that reliability is high, but we are not saying the reliability is absolute. Let's be very clear, right? So this grid gives you a very deep example. It might trigger some thinking in your brain. Okay, these kind of situations we might face in the real audit environment. And this is how scientifically we have to think. That is the important key takeaway of this exercise, right? Auditors must corroborate, means validate, evidence from multiple sources, triangulation is what we have discussed before forming audit conclusions. If you need more guidance, please consult ISO 19011 standard. I hope you enjoyed this video. Keep learning and keep rocking. Thank you for your time.